caregivers don't even see themselves as caregivers. They do what they do because they're taking care of a loved one. Whether it's a family member or someone in their community, they are doing it because that's what falls on their heart and their passion. I am Dewana Patton, and I am the CEO of the Ohio District 5 Area Agency on Aging, located in Ontario, Ohio, Richland County. I was fortunate enough to be the primary caregiver for my mother-in-law. Her name was Arlene Barnes, and she passed away at the age of 79. Arlene's goal was to remain at home for as long as possible, and so as a result, myself and my husband both provided care to her, primarily doing all of her grocery shopping because she was not real mobile. I did a lot of the cooking and certainly all of the bathing and the homemaking services for her to make sure that she could remain safe and independent in her home.
My name is Samantha Brooks. I reside in Macedonia, Ohio. For more than 15 years, my husband and I provided care to our parents, my mother and father, and my husband's mother in our home. My husband stopped working when his mother moved with us, so he was here with them all day. We continued to have outside support for personal care and for meals while I was at work. It worked out well. It was a lot of work for everyone, but our parents, I believe, thrived while they were here under our care.
My name is Sandy Hamilton, and I live in Cincinnati, Ohio. My mom lived several doors down the street, and when she began using a walker, the stairs in her house became very difficult for her. For example, we moved her second floor bedroom down to the dining room, and we tried to get some things in place where her life would be easier, but she still needed assistance getting in and out of her house, even though once she was on the first floor. Well, I began brainstorming as to what I could do as an alternative to a senior living facility. So in that I had the second lot, I began looking at building, I call it a cottage, which is now being termed an ADU. I drew what I felt that she wanted with a possibility of dementia or Alzheimer's, and we went from there.
There comes a point in time where burnout can happen. Saw that in my own personal experience where when caregiving became very intensified and when, I needed to be available every day, and many caregivers find themselves in a position where they have to provide every meal. They have to go every day and check on their loved ones. And it does cause burnout and sometimes frustration. And then that leads to guilt if they're not giving enough. And so caregivers deal with all kinds of emotions, trying to balance, their own self-care, their work, maybe their own families, their children, and then being the caregiver for someone who really needs them most.
My name is Earl Goldhammer, and my location is my home in Upper Arlington, Ohio. I have a very small family. I have a son, and he's married, and and my daughter-in-law. And when my wife's surgery was not going well, they came back to the United States and they lived with me, and they were very supportive and helpful. I'm very thankful for their presence. And I don't know what I would have done if I was totally alone. At the time, I was employed at American Electric Power, and it was very difficult to care for her and also carry on my work. Eventually that year, in 2004, I decided that I couldn't do both and that I had to retire. At the time, I was 63 years old. After that, I devoted my full time to caring for her.
What I believe is really needed for caregivers is a support from our legislative branches, a greater understanding of some of the issues that caregivers have in trying to navigate their own lives as well as those of their care receivers. Also being aware of the amount of savings that caregivers provide to states when they step in to assist in the care of a loved one.
I do feel like Mom's quality of life was significantly better living here in the cottage than perhaps she would have experienced in a Medicaid facility.
One of the duties of our family is to care for the people as they age and as they need more help.
I think by being a caregiver to my mother-in-law, who was honestly one of my best friends for many, many years, I think providing that care for her was invaluable to certainly her well-being. And it just brought so much joy to myself. Ultimately, it was probably some of the greatest days of my life for, being there for her when she needed me the most.